The Mario movie is making all of the money. It's not exactly well received from the critics. It's definitely been well received by Nintendo fans. And we're going to talk about what that's going to mean, not just for that movie, but for the industry coming up. So stick around. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Here's Out. I'm Patrick.
And I'm Paul. How's it going?
Pretty good, my friend. We're here to talk about why one Italian American plumber, is he Italian only or Italian American, depending on how they play him in movies, via Japan, since he's a Nintendo property. Anyway, the citizen of the world that is Mario is now one of the richest citizens of the world. I know he was before because of the games, but my gosh, the movie is making all of the monies.
Like, yeah, it's a bit ridiculous. Also, I think his name is Mario Krasinski. I was going to say Oppenheimer because we were talking about Oppenheimer earlier. Like, I was just going to just bring a whole bunch of names and just like ridiculously long. That's obviously not true. I think his name is like Mario Luigi or Mario or something like that.
He is probably
Mario Jumpman.
Mario Jumpman. I think he might be Mario Kong Donkey Jumpman Luigi Koopa. Anyway, there'll be a relationship back there somewhere. Funny thing, folks, the reason we want to talk about this is we'll go through why Mario has made so much money. Because let's face it, there are pretty good reasons, and then there's some less obvious reasons. But also, we're going to go on and talk about how, because money shows up, it's like blood in the water for the sharks. There are going to be imitators. There's going to be cash in, and I don't think, and Paul, we're going to talk about it. I don't think people are going to be able to make this happen twice. This one is lightning. I don't think it's going to happen every single time.
Yeah, I agree. Cards on the table. I've gotten to see the movie, and I know that Patrick hasn't, but he's one of the most well-informed people of the Mario movie, other than seeing it, kind of thing. But yeah, no, which is so. It's an interesting, yeah. It's lightning. It's not lightning in a bottle, but it's lightning. It's very good. It's a Mario movie kind of thing. So it's not going to be followed up by something like, what are they going to do? Peach is in another castle, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know.
And to that, Paul, we'll kick into it. So we're not talking about the original Mario Brothers that everybody had a problem with, and said it was one of the worst video game movies ever made, one of the worst movies ever made. Bob Hoskins did fine with Roger Rabbit, not so much with Mario. And John Leguizamo was a fine Luigi. It was just not a great film. So what we're really looking at is the new Mario that, when it was in its build-up phase, garnered some attention for, will Chris Pratt be able to voice over and not have it seem weird, etc., etc., etc. But Paul, having seen the movie, and I'm going to throw up the Rotten Tomatoes score, we're not exactly people who endorse Rotten Tomatoes repeatedly, but I think this gives you an indication of what we're going to go on and talk about. The movie itself, as you just said, Paul, it's fine. It's good. If you love Mario, it's great. If you really love story-driven movies, it's probably not the one for you. And I think that's where the audience score versus the critic score probably comes from, right?
Yeah. I described it as a movie with numbers in it. So that's kind of the way that I look at it. It's an enjoyable, fun movie. Am I going to watch it again? Probably not. The plot is very thin, and the whole Chris Pratt voice thing doesn't become actually. I will say one thing about the whole voice thing: they do that well, and they kind of like give you what you want, and then kind of normalize something else, which is good. They do kind of like gloss over that part. Um, so it's understandable. It is a lot of fan service, and it's a lot of kind of Nintendo video games kind of like nods and fan service stuff.
Yeah.
So I can understand why the audience are really enjoying it. As I said, I enjoyed it. I am a Mario fan. I am wearing a Bowser t-shirt because Bowser is my favorite character.
There you
Jack
go.
Black is just great. But from the critics' point of view, and seeing like movie from like a movie critic kind of standpoint, the film is very light on plot. It's what the games would also kind of have a problem with, except for some of the later ones, like Luigi's Mansion, Haunted Mansion, and maybe Mario Galaxy and stuff. But that's not what you're not going to this movie for that. You're going for all the nods and winks and kind of like tales of Mario's world and Mario and Luigi's kind of adventures. So
And
and Peach and Toad and Bowser and
Paul,
everybody.
one of the greatest commenters of all time, is in with us live, mentioning that they can say with fair amount of certainty that they're never going to watch this movie, and it's no connection with the game. It's not aimed at them, and I can empathize with that, because this one, it's not aimed at me. Do I have any issue with it? No. Am I really happy that they're doing well? Yes. So all Mario fans out there, you don't need to worry about us going, it's a terrible film. It's not about that. It's being successful because it's doing. Not every film has to be Citizen Kane. This film is doing what it's doing very well for its fans, and then some. And it's also doing very, very well with children. But what we're going to go into, Paul, because there is a film that came out a week before this launch that we covered that we actually did like, Dungeons and Dragons, another kind of what could you say, fan base based film. So there's a fan base for Dungeons and Dragons, and we'll go into some numbers in a moment about that. But there's a movie that hasn't financially made what it needed to make, but everybody agrees it's a really good movie. So this can go either way. And Sonic obviously is the natural competitor. My entire life, Mario versus Sonic has been a thing. Are you the Sega guy or the Nintendo guy? I was a Sega guy. It's what it is, whatever you manage to get in your household. I saw the Sonic movie eventually and really enjoyed it. So I'm fine with however you do it. Sonic did it with the real world and put Sonic in it. Mario went down the brightly animated digital world. There's many different ways to tell a story.
Yeah, no, very much so. So I do think that this is a bit of like there's a bit of a backwards kind of thing, because I think when they announced the Sonic movies and they saw how well they were going, I think Nintendo were just like, which one of our characters could we do a movie about that will be very successful? And the only one that they could do that's going to get the amount of fan service that it is Mario. So I do feel that Sonic has set the stage for this level of like nostalgic video game characters coming into the movie world. When you were saying like D&D has kind of come against the Mario kind of film releases and everything. This is my problem with I hate the Mario film because it's just an enjoyable movie. You don't need to think too much or anything like that. Really, really well.
Right.
It does it too well. It's so good at it, like that.
It's excellent at what it does. That's quite an endorsement, Paul.
It's excellent at being the kind of like very enjoyable, brain turn off popcorn movie, whereas D&D had like a little bit more to it, which just makes me hate Mario because like it's killing D&D. And I said, and I'll hold my cards, I'll hold my hand up and say like I thought people would see Mario and just be like, well, there's not enough plot for me, so I'm going to go see the D&D movie. That's not happening. So I was completely wrong like about it, and like. You and Ben were right that essentially Mario is killing D&D. So
I think Mario was going to wipe everything, no matter what was out. Like John Wick, let's face it, the fact that Dungeons and Dragons got any sort of play at all is credit to the movie because it came out between such juggernauts. But Paul, let's get into some numbers real quick. Here's my take on the D&D thing. And there's no great numbers on the internet, but let's just say, best numbers I can find, approximately 50 million D&D players worldwide. Now that could be closer to 500 million for all I know. And even if it is, it's not the same fan base. It's not the same type of thing as people who are a fan of one video game character or one video game franchise. Because Dungeons and Dragons is a huge community with lots of variety in it. Mario is one game. So I think that would be a weird comparison. But in comparison to Sonic, like Sonic has sold 178 million of its games, not including mobile. Mario has sold 775 million units. Mm-hmm. It is by far the biggest video game franchise, like by far. It's up there. It's the undisputed master or king. So numbers wise, it has a big place in a lot of people's homes, a big place in a lot of people's history. Like I say, it's been around. I'm slightly older than Mario. I hate to admit I predate Mario, but not by much. By enough. I know everybody's going to go, oh, yeah, it's quite a few years actually. But I remember playing the first Mario on a NES, a Nintendo Entertainment System in the US, going, this game is great. Oh, I think it'll be a real hit. If only I'd been old enough to buy stocks. So yeah, Paul, fan bases can only make so much of a difference, though. But when you have that big a pool, like that big a pool of people who are familiar with your character, it really does help.
Yeah, like I do want to make a caveat that, like, yeah, with D&D, it's a bit of a difficult kind of comparison because it's not a digital game. It's
exactly,
more kind of books and stuff that are spread over that. So, but Mario is like it would incorporate, like, Mario incorporates both fan bases as well. Like, you know, I don't think there's many D&D and Sonic players who would not also be a fan of Mario that much.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, it's got a massive fan base. It's one of the most popular games in the world. So yeah, it's definitely got a bigger pool. The other thing is that whereas D&D's demographic as well was probably a little bit thin, a little bit smaller, because it wasn't going for a too younger crowd or anything like that. This is where Sonic and Mario kind of go head to head a little bit more, is that their demographics were a little bit wider, as in fans of the games and characters would love the film, and also family members and stuff like that, and also those people who were just like, I don't know Sonic, I don't really play the games, I don't have any children, but Jim Carrey is back, so I really want to go see him.
Exactly. I'll be honest, it's why I ended up seeing Sonic. I was like, hey, I want to see Jim Carrey, I want to see that Robotnik.
Yeah, no, he was great, but yeah, so the demographics between Sonic and Mario are quite large, like quite kind of overlapping.
Yeah.
So it then comes down to fan base, as you said, which is there is a bigger fan base on there is a bigger fan base on Mario than there is Sonic. So demographics and fan base really kind of help you out there.
I think we can even dig into that a little bit more in a moment, because first I just want to Mario by the numbers. Estimated production cost of around 100 million. So double that and then add a percentage, I'd say, in this case. So total budget, including advertising, probably around 200, 225. So this was a $200 million film, all in, with, you know, production cost plus marketing, advertising, and all of the other associated costs. In 14 days, it made 710. I think as of today, it's up to 725. So first
729 million, and then it's an even split. The good thing actually is an even split over domestic and international box offices.
Yeah, and I want to bring that up actually at this point, because, you know, it hasn't released in its home territory yet. If you consider Nintendo is Japanese, is not launching in Japan until the 28th of April. So it's going to get an extra bump when it lands in Japan. And I took some notes here just to give a comp for it. So comparable thing, Frozen made 175 million in Japan alone. So there's an animated movie. It's not particularly, you know, related to a gigantic corporation like Nintendo that are loved in Japan. This thing's making 200 million in Japan. So there's another 200 million yet to come from one of those international markets. It isn't showing any signs of slowing down. It had one of the best second weekend holds in a long, long time. But importantly, biggest opening weekend for an animated feature, highest grossing film based on a video game, yada, 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 all of those things. But Paul, you alluded to it. The Mario games, because they cross so many generations, they're a family thing. I've seen people play, and this is where we can't underestimate the power of Mario Kart in particular. I have seen people playing in 3 generations. So I've seen a grandfather, a father, and a son. Well, it's actually, in this case, it was a daughter. Grandfather, a father, and a daughter playing Mario Kart together. And they all had a connection with Mario. One, obviously, from the original Nintendo. I think the first time they'd ever played a Mario was Super Nintendo time. So that would have been around the first Mario Kart. If you're not into Mario, so if you're not into platformers, Mario has a whole second branch in Mario Kart that has made it so accessible to everybody. And I know Sonic has all of its kind of knockoff versions of Sonic Racer and other stuff. I don't want to even get into that because I don't want to annoy anybody in the video game community. But between Mario Kart and the Mario games, it's a family franchise, a full family, multiple generation franchise. Very few things in any part of pop culture can span three generations easily.
Yeah, no, it is a generational game. Like coming back from from Jumpman all the way up to like Galaxy and Mario Kart. It spans quite a distance of things. Whereas Sonic, as much as you're saying that Sonic, the earlier games were a lot better. It's been teetering off from there, kind of thing, with some kind of electric kind of shocks back into kind of popularity. But the movies really kind of brought Sonic and back into the kind of limelight a lot more than some of the other stuff. But the Mario games, like paralleling with the film franchise, is just obvious. Like they're equal kind of footing on how much people that they're going to touch and get involved and stuff like that. So it's I understand deeply why this movie made so much money. From all the moments that all the data that we've kind of talked about, fan base, demographics, games and all that kind of stuff. But it annoys me still.
Well, that's what we've got to move on to next. And just one last thing on that Mario Kart thing. For anybody who doesn't get what I'm saying with this, talk to any, because gamers are listening to this and getting angry. Because people who are into this will go, you don't know what you're talking about, you're not a fan. Chill out for a moment. I'm speaking for the general populace. A lot of people who are casual gamers, if you ask them to name a racing game, because racing in real life is my thing, ask them to name a racing game, just average folks. They might say Gran Turismo. They'll probably say like, oh, that F1 game, whatever it was called. It'll be something they'll remember as an F1 game maybe. But they will primarily say Mario Kart. Mario Kart has done for racing games what Mario did for platformers. It became synonymous with the genre. And sim racers out there, don't get mad at me. I love you all. It's a different kettle of people that I'm talking about here. But Paul, you're talking the Avatar effect as far as I'm concerned, because Mario's not an amazing story. I don't get me wrong. I'm always happy that Princess Peach is safe, and I wish her well. But it's not a deep and complex story. And Avatar was more spectacle than story for me. And Avatar: Way of Water, same thing. Who makes the money? Avatar makes all of the money. Mario is following that path.
Yeah, like this is the thing is that so we were talking about Avatar. The Avatar effect is essentially it's a spectacle. Avatar is a spectacle movie. It's great at world building, but not great at plot and putting things in the world, in like having something happen within the world. Mario already has an inbuilt world building kind of thing because it's such a popular kind of franchise and everything. And it doesn't have a strong plot, but it fan services, it nods, it does everything it possibly can to be just like, if you're even in the fringes of the Mario kind of like sphere of influence, the amount of nods that you'll know about and get is like you'll get most of them.
I wish I had my Steve Rogers loaded up. I get that reference.
Yeah, no, like that's the kind of thing. You the amount of kind of like, yep, I get that, kind of thing. Even if you don't play the games that much, even if you don't know the fact that Mario started off as Jumpman with Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
You'll still get many of the races, or like, you'll get a lot of the racetracks as well, but a lot of the kind of nods and stuff like that. So but it's not, once again, it's the like lowest common denominator kind of elements to make a good film.
But it's the age old music argument of, is like pop dance music really music? Well, it is if a load of people want to go out and enjoy dancing to it. It's just music for a different thing. And the same thing I've always said, I don't like or get Avatar. I just don't. But that doesn't mean that somebody else and the billions of dollars that it makes are not justified or earned or any of that stuff, or that if you like it that you're wrong, or that I think anything less of you. Same thing with Mario. people are getting very defensive on the fan side, going, "Why do you all hate this movie? Can you not just enjoy things?" Yeah, and and especially if you're enjoying it, more power to you. Enjoy it. I wish Mario all the success. I'm really happy for all the people that makes even happier. That's great for them. I never want to see any fandom let down by a property that comes out to represent them. So I say, good on you, fair play, Mario. But it's not like I'm going to pretend it now has the plot to, never mind Citizen Kane, The Matrix. I'm not gonna give
Yeah.
it something that it doesn't have.
It annoys me that people have been going on about that. They're just like, yeah, can you not just enjoy it? Can you not just judge us and just enjoy it? We don't need, like, integral plot or anything like that. And I'm just going, where was that ideal when you were bad mouthing Maverick? You
Yeah,
know, that's my deepest problem. Not my deepest problem, but one of my
it's
problems
a
with
double
this movie
standard.
is yeah, is kind of just like, oh, it's okay because it's your like thing. Is that what's going on? Because like Maverick isn't my thing. Mario is more my thing than Maverick.
True,
You
actually.
know, and I was going like this deserves a lot more recognition in the sense that it is it is saved cinema and it's just an enjoyable escapist movie. Mario, the reason I hate it so much is because it does what Maverick does, but so much better. Like it's so much better. Kind of going here, it's just going to give you a hug. You can switch off your minds and you can just enjoy the pretty colors and the enjoying like happiness of the movie, which I did,
There you
you
go.
know. But having people now turn around and it's been like, you shouldn't judge it so harshly because it's a movie. You should enjoy it and just, enjoy life and let it bring you into the world and
Yeah.
have you, escape and away from your mind and stuff. And I'm just like, you
Folks,
said Maverick was terrible, but,
yeah. Look, is there anything wrong with fan service? No. Is there anything wrong with pretending that because it served your fandom that it's amazing and everybody else should love it just as much? Yes. And I can back Paul up on the whole Maverick thing because I remember last year, in fact, I remember a few years ago, we did a thing about the longest gaps between sequels, and we didn't even realize then that it was going to be a few more years before Maverick came out.
yeah,
But we talked behind the scenes, folks, as you may guess. Maverick, Top Gun, the original, was a huge part of my childhood, but not so much for you, Paul, because we're one generation separated. And you were very clear and honest about that, and you gave Maverick a fair shake. And when we'd both seen it, we got back together. You were like, "Yeah, wow, well done, those people." There was no prejudice or hard feelings or anything from you. It was very genuine, and I can absolutely see what you're saying. Yeah, so people being a little bit double standardy, I think that's true. Now, Paul, we're gonna take a break in a minute, but there's something that we can do beforehand. Let's talk about the fallout from this. Let's start that conversation because there are some other possible movie games that might come out of this. So if you make, and don't get me wrong, Mario's making 1 billion. It's not a question
yeah,
of if, it's a question of when, and then how much over 1 billion it's making. So you make a
yeah.
$1 billion movie for 200 million in expenditure. You're, never mind getting a sequel, you're starting a trend where everybody in the back offices are pulling out their old Super Nintendos and asking their kids to give them any cartridges and what was your favorite game because we want to make a movie. Zelda is the next biggest property that Nintendo's associated with that I'm aware of. You're more
Yeah.
the gamer than me. Am I right on that?
It's probably the next biggest one that also has the same type of demographic that Mario would have.
Yeah.
You know,
But one or two huge differences in the main character Link doesn't speak, I believe.
no,
And there's talk already, and there was previously talk that if he's ever played by anybody, it would be Tom Holland. So, Zelda movies have been talked about. But
hmm
Zelda, I should have put this gently, and not being a person who's played loads of Zelda. Zelda's got story. They've got a lot more that they've got to do with. So they've got a lot more that can go wrong. With
yeah,
Mario, they actually had it easier than you might think to adapt for a movie, doing it the way they did it. You won't get away with doing what they did with Mario for Zelda. You'll piss off fans, and that hurts your bottom line.
yeah. Also, your demographic that you target wouldn't be a similar thing. You wouldn't be able to probably target as small or sorry, as young of an audience as you would be able to with Mario.
Mm,
That's one thing I will say because there is some themes about Zelda in it that probably would fly over kids' heads, and also there is some darker moments within the Zelda kind of like game universe that more likely to keep the fan base kind of happy, they would have to bring over to the. Now I don't mean like it's not going to be like Berserk or some kind of horror movie or anything like that kind of level of kind of darkness, but like it's still over children's kind of like you wouldn't. There's no one in Nintendo that will be this like let's reduce the age for Zelda because that will piss off the community and scare children.
So yeah, it's a harder thing to achieve. And don't get me wrong, if they make a Zelda movie, will it make a load of money? Yes. Will it be as easy? And I use easy advisedly here. I don't think that anything about the Mario movie was easy for them. There was still a huge element of risk. But is it as surefire, a swing and a hit? I don't think so. Zelda has story complications. You've got to write the right story. You've got to decide whether or not your main character is now going to be a speaking character. How do you approach all the things about Zelda that you didn't have to approach about the Mario movie, let's say? And I think the same thing kind of applies, because I just threw up Metroid, I know, again, associated with Nintendo. Call of Duty, I just pulled that out as one of the other, top 5 franchises in sales. Huge inbuilt fan bases. Call of Duty, of course you could do it, but you're essentially just making a war movie.
Yeah.
That poses its own challenge to try and make Mario kind of numbers. I don't see it being an analog at all. Metroid, you tell me, Paul, is there a big enough fan base out there that you'll be able to explain it to the world quickly enough to get them into a cinema in the same sort of numbers as Mario? I don't see that either.
I would love to see a Metroid film. Will it happen? Probably not. Like it's a difficult storyline in itself kind of thing, and I don't see that happening. So it's a great sci-fi. I'd love to see it, man. You're saying difficult for Zelda, it'll be difficult for Metroid.
Yeah.
So,
and again, it's huge. Sales numbers huge. Has generations, so it's got a lot of things that are analogous to Mario. But yeah, I can see them making a Metroid movie now, Paul, or trying it. But I cannot see it making Mario money.
No.
That's for dang sure. Now, if you will join us after a very short break, we're going to talk about the Pokemon in the Room, because Detective Pikachu made money. Why aren't we mentioning it? So join us after these brief words from our kind sponsors. You obviously like 2 people talking about movies, or you wouldn't even be seeing this ad. Well, don't tell anyone. But Hear Us Out isn't the only choice. You should check out our friends over at It Takes Two podcast. It's a podcast where 2 people take 2 films with the same plot or premise, watch and discuss them. Films like Gremlins and Critters, or The Truman Show on EdTV. Lisa and Nick don't stop there though. They get creative and compare some unexpected movies. Some that you don't see the connection until you realise that they can be described in the same way. They launch new episodes every second Tuesday, or Monday if you're in New Zealand. Find them on your favourite podcast service, or check the link in our description down below. That's It Takes Two podcast. Tell them Hear Us Out sent you. There you go. That was a little ad for our good friends over at It Takes Two. Definitely check them out. Hey there, everybody. Yeah, do go check them out. It is a must. An absolute must. Paul, I mentioned Pikachu just before we disappeared, and that's because there's no point in ignoring the other video game movies that come out. So, and I'm talking non-horror because I think we need to talk about that specifically as its own thing, because that's a very, very important point. Horror and video games, different landscape, and different rules for success, in fact. But you've got Assassin's Creed, you've got Uncharted, you've got Need for Speed. These are actually all big video game franchises. And then you got Pokemon, which is something that's outside of video games, but also inside of video games, thanks to being media, being multi-platform. Yeah. Detective Pikachu made a load of money. You're talking 400 and something million. And again, like we said, Sonic made a whole lot of money. The 2 Sonics together. So Pikachu made 449 million worldwide. So Sonic's already beaten it after 2 weeks. Or not Sonic, Mario.
Yeah.
But then if you add Sonic 1 and 2 together, you're at 711 million, which again, Mario's already beaten in 2 weeks. So we're talking a different level of numbers at this point. And again, once you add Japan, you're talking even a bigger bump. But it's not just about the money. Assassin's Creed, I love Michael Fassbender. I never played the games, didn't hear good things about the movies specifically, so never actually saw it. Uncharted, did play games, did play some of the Uncharted games, loved it, thought I'd love a movie, specifically with Nathan Fillion. Got one, watched the movie, didn't hate it, but didn't, it didn't change my life.
Yeah.
Need for Speed, aimed at me, Paul. Let's just leave it there. Need for Speed was a movie that happened. And we should probably just move on from it and never mention it again. There's like,
I didn't see it. So.
Count your blessings. Okay. There's a scatter of there is a long litany of semi-successful, not successful at all. Then things like Detective Pikachu with Ryan Reynolds, actually successful. These things made money. We're not saying that they're not in. It's all Mario now. These things were all flops. They weren't all flops. But there is now going to be a different expectation set by the boardrooms in Hollywood.
Yeah, the bar has been set pretty high.
Yeah.
Especially since, as you said, the budget to gross profit is quite large. So it's about 500 something million is the gross profit
so
of
far.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the bar has been set in a new fashion for the nostalgia games kind of franchises. That's the thing. So Sonic has had 2 films. I think it has a third kind of coming out or something, or set to come out. Mario, it's just come out. It's just smashed every kind of it smashed all the records and everything. So yeah, that bar is pretty high, and that bar was originally set by Detective Pikachu.
Yeah,
I will say that
worldwide. Yeah.
Yeah, it was set by Pikachu first, and then Sonic came and it didn't do as well, but I think it did do well in the sense of plot. It was a good mixture of nostalgia with plot, fan service with plot kind of stuff. So they brought a new bar to it, going you can put more story into the film with these characters and stuff. But yeah, Mario's just completely knocked it out of the park.
And from its own, the studio Illumination, they've been on the map for a while now, and actually, to be fair, not that long compared to the other big players. But they've got the Despicable Me and the Sing and Minions and all that kind of stuff. Secret Life of Pets. They've put themselves on the map as a player. This puts them in they've had their Shrek, or they've had their Toy Story now, and it's Mario. The problem is for Illumination, Mario is still Nintendo. Nintendo financed half of this and are going to walk away with 50% of the gross. Nintendo are going to make a lot of money out of this, and they deserve to. So the financial side of all this, and that's what I find most interesting about Mario, and whether or not it can, the lightning can strike in the same way twice. Everything we've said so far, wide appeal, all the things that have made it a big hit the first time round. Give me a Mario sequel. Will it do as well, Paul?
No.
I don't think it will.
No. I don't think it is. Everything we've said here is a great thing for this movie. The things that came before it really set the stage for it. Yep. It's fan service and it's fan base and community and games and even even the TV show, the cartoon TV shows and stuff like that really set the stage for this. But they are all the hurdles that it has to get over for the next one. That's the thing. It has built a massive wall in front of itself for the sequel. The thing is that we've gotten the hey, here's the nostalgia pill that you want about Mario. So where we go, well, what's next for it? You can't do the same thing. You can't strike that chord again with us because you've given us this movie. You have to do something more. And I do know that they've hinted at the Galaxy kind of world, Mario Galaxy kind of thing. But I say a lot less people know about those games and the kind of story about those than they do about the original ones. The kind of more platformy, kind of less 3D ones, kind of thing. So, man, it's going to be so difficult, and I don't think they'll pull it off. They'll get close.
Yeah, and look, we may have to eat our words when they have, the sequel does twice as much as the original. Who knows? But my gut feeling on it would be the same as yours right now. That this is not replicable in a like for like scenario. Again, though, Paul, and I just want to go to one of the comments because the most important thing we're going to talk about, I think, is something that you brought to the table, and that's where horror and games has a crossover that is in a different league to everything we've talked about so far. There's a
Mhm.
different fan base. There's a different metric for success. There's a lot of difference. And Brew has asked, did fans of The Last of Us show, The Last of Us hate the TV show? So did game fans hate the TV show? I don't know. I didn't get to play The Last of Us, and I actually am waiting, and I haven't watched the show yet either. Show was very well received. Game was very well received. Do you know if the fans of the game are fans of the show?
So so originally it wasn't. Originally it wasn't because everybody the first episode is very indicative of what happens within the games in the first kind of opening scenes. So like they essentially just did a fairly good shot for shot kind of uh a shot for shot kind of a remake of the game. So a lot of people were just like, well, if I'm going to, I wouldn't. Why would I watch the game that I've played? Why would I just go back to the game and just play it, kind of thing. But since the not to give anything away, but the series has gone in a different. It's going in a different direction in a lot of spaces. So it's kind of like they're giving more. It's this is the thing that we've talked about, which is like you can set something in an already established world, but just give a different story. You
Yeah.
can, like, the boys have done it really well. The boys are probably one of the best examples of it. I know the comics books inside out. I am loving the boys. It is completely different from the comics,
Yeah.
you know? So, like, and there's no animosity towards changing the story. Like, so, like, it's the same thing for a lot of the game fans of The Last of Us as well.
And
So,
Bruce just chimed in to say, really enjoyed the show, but I knew very little about the game. And that's the point for me. If you have to know the original book, the original game, the original whatever that something's based on to enjoy something, then it hasn't been a success. Now, if you say
yeah.
if you read the book, you'll get even more from the movie, or if you played the game, you'll get even more from the series, that's fine. That's added dimensions. But for something, if anything cannot stand on its own, then they've missed the brief of making it. So yeah, I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to The Last of Us. But Paul, that segues nicely into your specialist subject in a lot of ways. Like I've got Dead Space, Bioshock, and Resident Evil on screen. Resident Evil for me, the very first one,
Yeah.
I remember watching it going, "That's how you do it.
Yeah.
That's how you take, something I played as a video game and put it on screen." They weren't afraid to go dark. They weren't afraid to be kind of true to the dark nature of the game. It wasn't a remake of the game. It was a lot of homage. It had its own thing going on. I really dug it. Now, I've watched everything, all of the movies in the Resident Evil franchise, but I didn't watch the recent kind of reboot TV show thing that they did or whatever that mini movie was.
Yeah, the Netflix series. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is interesting. The Resident Evil one is probably the most interesting one because it did have great success in the first movie. It had less success in Raccoon City, and then as it went on further, it just got worse and worse because it definitely felt like it was milking it. The animated series, on the other side of things, has been very closely guarded by the community, which is great. But it's not a. It continues on more stories with the games, so like it's not a very easy thing to break into as a like if you haven't played all the games or anything like that. So that's where there's a little bit more difficulty in it. Um, and I do know that there's a new animated film coming out, which is more to the community on canon, so kind of thing. There's the Silent Hill games, with Silent Hill movies that also came out. They're the same thing. It's very difficult to kind of portray that. Like as you said, if you need to know the source material to get much enjoyment out of it, you've kind of already failed. So that's what kind of Silent Hill happens. Bioshock and Dead Space. Now, these are two interesting ones because they're not movies yet. They've constantly been like teased as movies coming down the road. Like the Bioshock one has been years.
It's supposed to have been a Netflix series by now. Like they
Yeah.
transitioned from movie to series at one point, and I've played a little bit of Bioshock. Just to throw it out there to Brian, who was saying he enjoyed The Last of Us. Knowing him as well as I do, he'll dig Bioshock. Like that's one
Yeah,
of those
but
things that you make that show well, it'll be another Last of Us style success, I think.
yeah, like Bioshock is a really good one that they could do, and I do think that Mario's kind of like success will reinvigorate this and the kind of looking for games franchises to be able to monetize more within the film or TV kind of media, and I do think Bioshock is one of those. But out of that, Dead Space,
Which
Dead
I've
Space,
played, and I agree with you.
yeah,
Yeah.
Dead Space is another one of those. The protagonist talks, which is the story is really really good. The horror is really nice. It goes between essentially like genres as well, which I am a little bit annoyed of. And also recently just had a remaster. It had a full on remaster kind of thing, which added then they've added extra parts to the game. So like, and that did really really well. So like, it's a franchise not like Bioshock might not be doing as well because it hasn't had a game out for a while. Dead Space just had a reimagining slash remake kind of thing, so it's not a dead community or a dead kind
Mm,
of series
yeah.
franchise thing. So that might be you might see that gets fast tracked a lot faster than maybe the Bioshock TV
Good
show
point.
kind of thing. Just to kind of come at us like
Yeah.
Mario franchise kind of stuff.
And
So
Paul, do you think that when because this is why I kind of opened this section by saying it's a different playing field for horror as a movie genre, because that isn't automatically, it's in its very definition, it's not family friendly. Horror,
no,
like a family friendly horror film, is usually not one that's going to work. I can't think of a family friendly horror. You know, you're not going to go and see a horror matinee with a 6-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 60-year-old. It's probably not going to work.
no,
Um, but in gaming, the dark, scary, exciting side of, you know, those elements of horror, things like, you know, the original Doom, Quake, to Resident Evil, to Blood, to any of the first person shooters that relied on scaring you a bit, or Dead Space or Bioshock, or anything creepy. There is a really strong community in, and I'm not going to call it horror gaming, but let's just say games with frights, or at least games with a sinister over or undertone. So a success for something like Resident Evil isn't the Mario thing. It isn't, we'll give you 200 million in total cost and you'll make us 1 billion. It's, you're going to make this for 45 million all in, but we're going to actually quadruple our money. You're going to bring us back 300 million or more. We're going to do really, really well. So percentage win, very high.
yeah, like that's the thing. So yeah, you do have to judge these in the kind of demographic part of it, which is it's a lot smaller. The only thing is that because of Stranger Things, and that's not linking to like a younger audience or anything like that. Because Stranger Things has opened the door for these kind of like Cthulhu-esque kind of like somewhat light, somewhat scary kind of TV shows or franchises, which I think Bioshock there will probably do really well in because
Yeah.
it has elements. It's more of a thriller. It's a survival horror game. That's what the genre is. It's a first-person survival horror game.
With a hell of an aesthetic. It's got
But
that Art Deco aesthetic that will lend itself to screen incredibly well.
that's the thing. It becomes more of a thriller because of its setting, because of the like set pieces that it can do. It becomes way more of a thriller than it does become a horror film. So thriller already like takes down a slot in the kind of demographic because there's people who they hear horror, they will not go to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is. Bioshock heading down to the thriller kind of area is just like, oh, that's scary enough that I'll enjoy myself, but not too scary that I'm not going to enjoy anything.
Yeah.
Kind of level. Whereas Dead Space is just horror all the way through. Resident Evil was horror until it wasn't. Kind
Mistake.
of thing. So like,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's a bit, but yeah, you do right. The bar is set a little bit different, but Mario has definitely lit a fire under this side of the table as well. Kind of thing because it like, ooh, every time this happens as well, every time a game franchise makes the leap over to another media like movies or TV and does really well, you hear the names again. Dead Space,
Yeah.
Bioshock, Zelda, Uncharted until Uncharted was made,
Yeah,
kind of thing. You start hearing these names come up again, and out of the
really well
ones that we
put.
talked about, Zelda is probably the next one on the list, kind of thing.
I think
I
so.
would say, BioShock is the next one because in the horror side of things, just because of the thriller-esqueness to it. So
Yeah. And they'll always be the Mortal Kombat's of this world doing their thing in their various reincarnations and reboots. But you know what, Paul? You made I love it when you make a really good point towards the end of the show. And I think to that though, because you've just nailed it and named the likely ones, and to reinforce that kind of different playing field, if Mario makes, let's say, 8 times its original budget in profit back for a studio, to make 8 times your original budget on, let's say, a darker thriller slash horror end of the gaming spectrum, you can go in with a 10 million budget and come out and have made 100 million and actually beat Mario by percentage. Because everybody does think that it's about the big numbers. Studios do love the big numbers, but they really also do like the big percentages. If they could make 100 films a year and make 50% profit guaranteed every time, they would want that just as much as one big film a year that they only make 10% profit. Profit does, it pays the shareholders.
yeah, like
Yep.
yeah, like as you said, this has made probably about 60% profit on its kind of from its budget to this kind
So
of thing.
far, yeah.
Yeah, if you were to, if like BioShock and Dead Space probably would require a larger budget kind of thing to get kind of that aesthetic and stuff like that, but it would probably make probably about 80% of its budget back, because it wouldn't be 200 million to make.
Yeah.
It would be less, but it probably would make about 80% profit. Now Mario's on its way to make 80%
Oh,
profit
yeah.
as well, so like
Yeah.
kind of thing. But that's the numbers games that also like they want to play, because Mario's going to make a soft 80% back. It's going to make it makes a hard like 65% profit back. After this, it's going to be a little bit wavery on kind of how much it makes. One of these horror games, Dead Space or BioShock, will make a hard 80 back. Like a hard 80% back.
If made at the right level.
Levels.
Yeah. If made at
Yeah,
the right level.
Just because of the levels, and they like, that's the thing. Boardrooms like that number, like the idea of kind of going a hard 80% is a good number, because it means we get that money back.
And I'm not sure what studio made Dead Space or BioShock, but there will be a load of people asking one question because of Mario. How much financing are we getting out of these people that we have to give them back? Because Nintendo's master move of financing so much of Mario and getting so much of the kickback on it. Hollywood aren't big fans of giving their money away to other people, even if they have financed.
That is true. Yeah.
So,
yeah, and that is the thing. These games will not have as big of a studio to kind of back them, or big of a game studio to back them, kind of thing. So,
well, Paul, I want to throw to the comments if that's okay with you, just before we close out. Brian, we covered your last comment. Pop Culture, welcome, says, I know at least in the States, a lot of people just went to Mario because it was family without the political drama surrounding it. Cough Disney. I don't know if you made that point earlier. No, we didn't actually go into that. And yeah, I've heard and read that sentiment quite a lot. Oh, at least it's a film without any, political angles or anything. The way I view all cinema that I go and see is that it doesn't have a political angle, because usually when people find it, they went in looking for it. Now, the fact that Mario is immune to that is another one of the special lightning strikes only once with Mario here. It is a USP of Mario that it would have been very difficult for people, even as much effort as they go into today, Paul, to find things to be annoyed about. It would be very, very hard to go too hard into that.
My problem with that kind of element is the fact is that there are movies out there that you try to make a political statement. You go to them for that kind of thing. This level of politicism of the Mario movie and other movies kind of like it is the fact is that no one has a problem with Illumination and Nintendo.
Yeah,
that's the thing. It's not the movie making a statement. It's like the Disney movies are not making statements, like overly amount of statements. There are some that are kind of not making a statement, but have been seen as making one.
Yeah.
But more people have a problem with the actual studio, with actually Disney, than they do. That's where they're more politicizing it, which is stop bringing that into the cinema, kind of thing. Like Star Wars is not overly making a political statement other than the virtues of bad versus evil or good versus evil, kind of thing. It's not like like anything more than that. But you're bringing the baggage in, going like Disney are always trying to stick things down our neck and stuff like that, and it's just like that's not what this stop us.
At this point, Paul, I think we should both just wave at the camera and say hello to successful YouTube out there. You've weaponized the word woke, and you've weaponized a whole. There are so many channels that you can watch if all you want to do is find out new ways to hate each other and have concerns with everybody else. So it's one of those. Actually, Pop, we better give you last chance here just before, because I just saw it popped up. Not so much for the plot point, the political debate around Disney with like Florida. Some were the debate around Disney more than about the movies themselves. Yeah, exactly. And that's what you were saying, Paul. And also pop culture called it out. BioShock scared me. Creepy, scary girls are my worst nightmare. Do you know what? I'm with you, but anything that's like little boy, little girl, any creepy kid that you're like, if they were lost at the mall, you'd want to help them, but then they turn out to be, have knives made out of teeth. That's my end of nightmare.
There's a Belfast convention going on. We're going to be going on, and the twins from The Shining are going to be there as guests. The reason I'm pointing this out is my phobia of twin children in movies came from them. So the first thing I'm gonna be going to it. I mean, it's like, congratulations, you've literally ruined my life every time I see two children together. Because like I'm just like, they're gonna do a creepy turn. They're doing creepy turn. I'm out.
Yeah, I can see that interaction going very straightforward like this. You ruined like twins for me, and they'll just both in like stereo go. We get that a lot.
Yeah, and the thing is that more than likely I'm going to be like, hey, how's it going? And they're both going to turn to me and just be like, how's it going? And I'm going to be like, this is even worse because I know.
We demand some footage of you meeting those twins now.
Yeah, sure.
Paul, I want to talk about this all night, but we better wrap up the show. Yeah. I think it's interesting. I want to end on saying happy. In fact, you know what? Let's give Mario on screen for the last time. I'm happy for the plumber. It's tough for a tradesman to make a decent living. Mario seems to have pulled it off. I want all the Mario fans and all the Nintendo fans to be happy, be proud, enjoy yourselves. Let's all avoid any toxic fandom kind of behavior on either side. I wish it well. It's not for me. I'm sure it's great. It's going to do brilliant. Point being, not everything can now be Mario. If that offends anybody, which it will find one person on the internet to offend, I give up. What the hell can we do?
Comment down below.
Comment, exactly, yeah. Help the algorithm funnel your hate through your fingers. Comment below, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. But yeah, let us know how you felt about everything that was said. And if you ended up thinking that we were being negative about a movie by being honest, I'm sorry. That was not the intention.
No, my closing elements are, I really enjoyed the film. I enjoyed it. Didn't go by like the hours didn't feel like it was going by slowly or anything like that. I hate it for that fact that it's very good at that kind of low, E numbers kind of fan service thing. But I can't hate on it too much because I like Maverick. So, well done Mario for doing it. I really congratulate all the cast and the crew and everybody who've been part of this kind of thing, and the animators, because they do not get enough love, kind of thing. But it is going to kick off a lot of stuff, and it will not recapture the magic, in my opinion.
No. Oh. Well, I would like to thank everybody who joined us now and in the future. We love you all. Like, subscribe, share, comment, good stuff. But most importantly, take care of yourselves and each other. I've been Patrick.
I've been Paul.
And we've been Hear Us Out. And we'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Mario, pooping.